Hello there, welcome back. I'm just taking a little walk, just finished recording another module of an upcoming project. I'm right now working on an online training program, and there are a few things that I've learned that I would like to share with in starting up some kind of project. Number one is related to perfectionism, and I was talking about this before. Perfectionism basically stifles our starting. Perfectionism stifles our growth in the beginning, where everything that we do is kind of hard per se, because if it wasn't, we would already have done that. So starting something new requires facing our fears of some kind in some form. And even if the things are kind of simple and actually quite easy, and actually everything is laid out for us, it can still be experienced as quite hard. In my case, for example, I was starting out with 105,000 euro as a kind of starting capital, and I have to say I'm so utterly grateful for that, and so lucky that I feel so fortunate for that. But for some reason, I was standing in my own way. I couldn't quite do it. I was starting this little marketing consulting company that didn't go well, and then started up another online project that didn't go well, and then we're starting something else, and quit this, tried this, quit that. But I really felt something kind of was missing. Something was kind of very, very odd and very, very off, because actually everything was there. Actually everything was kind of provided for. It's just that I was standing in my own way. When our ego gets so strong, no matter where we go, we take our ego with us. We take ourselves and our own psychology with us. So I decided that I needed to go to the jungles of Peru and sort myself out, working with a plant medicine teacher who cures you in a particular way that is related to the Andean, comes from the Andes, from the Andean tradition of healing and psychotherapy. So I did that, and that truly changed me. That truly changed some things, especially the way I felt about myself, and now I realize it's time to start again. So what I was saying is this: number one, perfectionism stifles us in the beginning, and number two, when we stand in our own way, no matter how fortunate the circumstances are, it can still be quite hard for us. So don't beat yourself up if it's the case for you as well, that basically everything is provided for, and you have this great idea, and actually you have plenty of motivation as well. You have plenty of ideas, you really want to do that, and you know people that can help you, and whatever the fortunate circumstance is. But if you feel that you're being pulled in two directions, you have to do some deep dive within your own psyche, see what holds you back. Because quite honestly, right now in this time, basically everything is there, with the internet and telephone, like calling up people or reaching people over the internet. It's easier than ever before. So whenever we have a great idea, we can do that. We can actually execute that. It's just us standing in the way. And no matter whether they're external problems, in the case of lack of money or lack of resources, lack of people, lack of ideas, or even lack of a psychological constitution, so to speak, to follow through on those things, we all have our certain set of obstacles, and everybody needs to overcome these, because behind those obstacles, kind of beyond that, is the life that we truly want. Beyond the fear, behind the fear is the freedom that we always want and that we seek. And it's not in the things that we get, it's more in the feeling that it gives us. And it's not really the feeling that we derive primarily from this lifestyle, but more or less also from the pride that comes from feeling that we faced what we need to face, and we've really grown into our potential. Be the woman or man that we can be. And this is basically a healthy pride, I believe. There's some egoic pride where you pride yourself in an unhealthy way, and there's healthy pride, I believe. So whenever you try to start something, don't be too perfectionistic. Done is better than perfect, as a great teacher of mine always used to say. Done is better than perfect, because here's the truth. What I believe is the truth. Come check for yourself, but even if you want to do everything right and perfect, will there be times in your life where you will be doing things wrong, yes or no? Will there be times in your life where you will make people unhappy without you wanting to, yes or no? Will there be times in your life where you really make a bad product or deliver a bad service or be like just in a bad mood for people, even if you want to be perfect? Will there be those times? Yes. So like, quite honestly speaking, it might be true that the first product you bring out or the first time you offer your service, that it won't be perfect, that it actually will not be good enough. This is quite a possibility, you know. I don't want to rid yourself of the I mean, I don't want to sound like, yeah, you know, you're perfect, you can just start and everything will be alright. You just need to start and then everything works. No, like, starting is the first step. Like, obviously that's kind of a no-brainer, but it's the first step. But it doesn't mean that everything will be easy and perfect afterwards. I'm just saying you will disappoint people anyway, even if you try not to. So bringing out the first product, you know, offering your service, and even if people dislike that, that's part of the way, because the only way to really get better at those things is by trying, is by doing, is by starting and making that happen. Another thing that I would like to share is this. You know, we're talking about medicine of honesty, about being honest, and I believe what's truly important is also to not bullshit yourself, you know, to really know what you're good at and really know what you're not good at, what you can deliver when you're just starting out and what you cannot deliver when you're just starting out. And then focus on those few specific things that you actually can deliver and try to deliver them well. Don't try to deliver them perfect, but try to deliver them well. And with this, you kind of shift your focus towards the other people, you know. Probably, and like most likely, those things will be topics where we speak from experience, where it's like not from knowledge, things you know, things you kind of recollect, and where the potentiality is there that you forget them when you're in a kind of state of stress. But the things that are really ingrained, they're like physical, visceral knowledge of yourself, where you really know these are the things that I truly do know and that I can deliver for the people. And then be honest when you don't know, say you don't know, especially in the beginning. It's quite dark right here, I just realized. Especially in the beginning, there will be plenty of moments where people will ask you something and you just need to be honest and say you don't know. Because medicine of honesty brings you up to a next level, so to speak. You see, when you try to pretend and try to hold on to your concept that you have of yourself, that you are now this person who can deliver this great service or bring out this great product, whatever that is that you start up as a project, try not to fall into the trap of kind of making this into a self-concept of yours, and then you need to live up to this expectation that actually you and only you yourself have created for yourself. That you need to answer every question that there is, and that you need to be like kind of a perfect expert on all those things. That's not quite true. And people will absolutely honor that when you say, I don't know, but here's what I do know, or here's a person I can refer you to, or, you know, just you see, the medicine of honesty always works. Just say, you know, I'm a young person. I mean, maybe you're young, maybe you're not, but maybe I'm just new to this industry, you know, I'm just starting, and I know these things are really the things that I've learned for myself, that I've tried and proven, and these are the things that I can deliver, and everything else I need to learn on the go. But you see, when I wouldn't be starting, I couldn't even deliver those few things to the people that really need that. So by being honest about that and just speaking your mind, speaking your truth, the people will take that to heart and they will respect that. So if you don't know, that's all right. But pretending to know and kind of justifying yourself, this is then where people really try to test you, and people tend to get mad at you and get off at you. And this is where you will then probably experience that things will not work out so well for you. But if you're truly honest, if you employ the medicine of honesty, nothing can happen to you. So you just start, focus on those things that you're good at, and be honest if people challenge you. And basically all those things that I've been speaking about come down to the deep core wound of us not being okay as we are, the way we are, wanting to be different than we are, wanting to alter and change ourselves, and living more from a place of our mental self-concept instead of our true being. And when we let go of that, and when we're able to kind of employ humor and also laugh at ourselves and don't take ourselves so seriously, because we know there's basically nothing to gain and nothing to lose. Life is just a game at the end. It's kind of a dance, a play of energy. This is one of my core beliefs, and I don't believe that's only a belief. I believe that's something beyond the belief. That's something that is a pretty accurate description of the truth. I mean, the truth can't be spoken. The truth is beyond the words, but some words are closer to the truth and some words are further from the truth. And I believe describing life as a kind of dance of energy is, and a game and a play that this energy is playing, basically revolving, dissolving, coming together and going out again, in and out, like the breath, in breath, out breath, like that. I believe that's a pretty accurate description of life. Anyway, the reason why I'm saying this is when we don't take ourselves so seriously. Isn't that a beautiful, nice little pond over here? Wow. When we don't take ourselves so seriously, then we do have the ability to say, I don't know, or we do have the courage to actually do things, because we know when we fail, it doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with us. See, this is what I believe is the core fear that we have of failure. It's not that the project fails and we have wasted time. The problem of wasting time is rather that we believe we grow slower if we waste time, so we will be even further away from being okay, being good, being perfect, being successful, being happy, healthy, wealthy, cool, attractive, whatever that is that we want. So, not looking into the future for those things, but staying right here, right now, in this present moment, being okay the way you are right now. Right now, being okay the way you are without trying to alter, trying to change, trying to manipulate, but being okay the way we are right here and right now, and so many things will work out. The fear of failure will still be there, because fear is something that is, automatically coming up as an emotion in a new situation. Like fear and excitement feel the same. That's nothing new. People have said this before. Many teachers have said this before, stated this truth before. It is the same. Fear and excitement always feels the same, but we attribute that fear. And in a novel situation, for example, when we do something new, start out with a new project, it's loaded with novelty. So of course fear is experienced, you see. But we so often are afraid of failure because we believe this is then a proof for us not being good enough or being a failure. We make it as some kind of identity level. But when we know deep down our true identity, our true essence, then the things begin to shift. Because when then the opinion that others have of us, when this kind of crumbles or changes or is volatile depending on our performance with the project that we do, especially if this evolves us, as a brand, as a kind of product, as you giving a service, or me standing in front or behind the camera, when it's about that, and we then know ourselves beyond our conditioned self-concept, then our self-concept is not so important anymore. But if that's all we know, then we are very, very dependent upon trying to keep this up, trying to, basically not to lose any sense of me being different than I want to be. You see where I'm coming from? When we know ourselves as nature, just listen to your beating heart. Listen to your breath in and out. Do you breathe or are you being breathed? Do you beat your heart or are you being beaten? When we stop beating ourselves up, we can just enjoy the flow of life and enjoy our beating heart. Being beaten by the beat of life. You see, the sacred drum. The sacred drum of life, so to speak. When we know ourselves as the nature behind that, we are not so afraid of our self-concept being diminished. When we know ourselves as the nature that we are, then we know there's something inside of ourselves that is grounded, ever-present, kind of eternal, that is not changing. Something inside of us is not changing. And something inside of us is changing, but it's not dependent upon other people's opinions. You see, there's this awareness, consciousness component within us that, Now it gets a little mystical, but that I believe we actually are, and I believe it's not a belief. I believe that everybody can make the experience of when you see something, then there needs to be some space in which that arises in. Otherwise, there couldn't be any experience. And yeah, the other aspect is that we are nature. We are not only the consciousness behind everything, but we are nature. And the nature is not dependent upon the opinion. If a bird flies around and is flying around, and my opinion would change about the bird couldn't care less, because the bird is not dependent upon my opinion. So are you not dependent upon my opinion or about anybody else's opinion, but the self-concept is. And by seeing that we are not our self-concept, then the things get less and less serious, and then we are actually able to fully start out with our project, because no matter whether we fail or not, in the grand perspective of things, nothing really truly matters. You and me, we are just little ants roaming this earth and don't make quite a huge impact. And even if we do change the world is just one planet out of, I don't know the numbers, I'm not an astrophysicist, but about probably millions, in all the galaxies that there are. Even if we do change the world, which is quite an achievement, and make true impact in the world, which is quite an achievement, even then the things are not so important than we believe they are. So in the grand scheme of things, actually, whether you lie in bed today or whether you get up, it doesn't matter. So you might as well just get up. But it's up to you, you see. But when we stop taking ourselves so seriously, our self-concept can change. It can be volatile. It doesn't matter, because we know who we are. And also, when we're talking about starting a new project and kind of following your heart, at some point you cannot not do it anymore, because life is kind of pushing you in this way. You see, everything in nature, if you look at animals, if you look at plants, how high does a tree grow? How tall? As tall as it can get. And all the animals you see out there, they're expressing themselves as free as they can, without trying to achieve a certain thing with that. They just express themselves the way they want to, the way they feel like, without any agenda behind that, without wanting to be natural, because they don't have a choice. They are just spontaneous and natural. So I believe life pushes us towards alignment with life. It's like quite simple. Often it is said life is flow, but it is true. Life is a river. And so when we imagine swimming in a river, we can swim, against the stream or alongside with the stream. And when we swim against the stream, at some point, we will be either exhausted or we die. And so we are forced by life to basically go with the stream of life. Not with the stream and follow the rules of society necessarily. I don't mean that by following, but following with the flow of life. Obeying to the rules of life, basically. And the rules are not imposed on you by some kind of god of life. I don't believe that in a kind of monarchical sense, that somebody is there and giving you the rules of life that you need to fucking listen to. But it's more like how life works, learning by observation how life works. So what I'm saying is basically that we are pushed by life into alignment with life, and when we are not truly ourselves, when we are not expressing ourselves as fully as we can, basically not following kind of the potential that life has for us, in the same way, as I said, how tall does a tree grow? As tall as it can get. And how freely and tall can we grow? As tall as we can get. So life wants us to, because this is just a free flow of things. So life forces us basically to express ourselves. So what I'm getting to is the point that at some point we cannot help but follow our hearts. We're kind of pushed in this way. It's not quite of a choice. We suffer when we don't follow our hearts. And I believe it's part and parcel of every human's life, of every human journey, to have some kind of activity in life. There are some very, very few people that are destined to be teachers and beautiful beings and just be restful and just hang out. If you think about like Indian yogis, they just some of them, I mean, just hang around, you know, on the mattress or under the tree and just meditate all day and being great teachers, or they're not. Anyway, but I don't believe this is everybody's course, or that should be an ideal for us, you know. We need to follow our own heart and go our own way. And for many, many humans, for the majority, the vast majority of humans, it is part and parcel of the journey to also have a means of giving, a means of doing something and discovering that it is part of following your heart truly. Bless you. Anyway, you don't have a choice at some point. At some point you do not have a choice. Life pushes you towards that, so better follow that sooner rather than later. And also I do believe that we can live a meaningful life. You see, life doesn't need to be kind of trodden at the end of our life. It's not everybody's destiny, so to speak, to live there in regret and in sickness, and you just retire and a few years later you just pass out. It's not that. I believe in truly following our hearts and starting up something, you know, for the benefit of humanity, and or to just do ordinary things, you know. I believe like having some employment of your own, being self-employed or a business owner of some kind, is a great, great opportunity for you to actually find the road to joy and fulfillment, because you grow without a forced way. You know, you are required to take responsibility, and at some point, you know, whether you become parent and you know, you have children, you need to be responsible. And so in your business, and so when you're self-employed. So you have the ability and the opportunity with that to actually grow up. And here's the thing, in our society we are not forced to grow up anymore. You know, in previous societies, there were kind of initiation rites. You know, I was on Vanuatu once, and they kind of tie a rope, you know, on their legs, and then they jump off this kind of giant thing of like, you know, 18 meters or something, and they just hit the ground, barely touching it. And it's kind of a test of courage, so to speak, an initiation rite for like young men. And I'm not saying you should do something like that, but there's some truth to that in those cultures people are doing that, because, you know, when we grow up, we need to face our fears that we have built up in childhood. So starting out a business or some project of your own is actually a great, great way to grow, and without forcing yourself to grow. Because I believe regret comes, you know, at the end of our life when we do not have lived our fullest potential. And that doesn't mean that we need to, grow more than we need to. You know, I'm not saying you need to push yourself, because otherwise you will regret your whole life. You grow by yourself. You mind, just look at nature. You see, everything grows by itself. It doesn't need to do anything for it, but also here's the thing, it doesn't restrain itself. Like, nothing in nature restrains itself from growth. It is probably being restrained. You know, if you see like two trees growing too close together, they are restraining themselves, like each other, but no living being restrains and restricts itself from growth. But we often do that. We, as our mentality, you know, having the self-concept kind of stifles our growth, and this is what really makes us unhappy. So I believe in order to have like a happy life, where you're like a wise man or woman, you know, shaped by life, having accumulated a great vast deal in amount of life experience to give and share to others, so your kids actually quite, you know, they like to hang around with you because you've just grown into a beautiful person. So, you know, I also believe like the reason why many elderly people are actually not respected by their kids, because they are not respectable people. I mean, it sounds like very, very harsh, but it's also in their responsibility, because if you're a boring person all your life, you know, as long as you can move, you can go and visit your other boring friends. But when you're kind of dependent upon other people and you're still just a complaining, whining, you know, being without having any valuable life experience to share because you've never inquired about life, I mean, you know, nobody wants to be around you. You see? So, but in accumulating beautiful life experience, like growing a business and like having kids and like really learning about life, you know, studying life, learning about life, you see, then we grow into a person that is like truly that people want to be around with. So even then in our old days and the years like after retirement or whatever, people want to be around us. So also those things are being taken care of. I think a lot of those, about those problems, you see. So here's the point. we can grow into a beautiful, beautiful being, accumulate a lot of life experience by just being ourselves and doing what we love, not holding ourselves back, because this creates a lot of trouble and a lot of suffering later on when we do not follow our hearts. Also, another thought, the amount of money that you can earn is also dependent upon your industry, of course, but is related as kind of a function of your own personal development. Because here's what happens, and I should explain that before, when you're in gardening, it's kind of the gardening variety, the garden variety, so to speak, of amounts of money that you can earn there. What I mean by that is you can go beyond, above average, but it's kind of different whether you're in gardening or you're on Wall Street. So it's of course dependent upon your industry, but yes, the money that you earn in your industry is dependent upon your personal development. And what I mean by that is this. On one hand, when you work on yourself, when you kind of get out of your own enclosed little ego mind and see the nature that you are beyond the conditioned ego mind, then you have a much vaster kind of overview of things, kind of big picture view, and the big picture view in whatever you do is very, very helpful and beneficial for you, instead of being so enclosed, being so small-minded. The difference between a business person who makes millions of dollars a year and somebody who collects bottles out of basically out of bins, the difference is that both people kind of carrying some kind of entrepreneurial energy inside of them. Both of them don't really want to work in kind of a 9-to-5 job, but just want to go around and roam and do their own thing. The difference is scale of thinking. Have you ever thought about that? A drug dealer or somebody who's collecting bottles, doing shady business kind of thing. All those people carry some entrepreneurial energy inside of them, so they can also be great leaders for the benefits of the world. But they choose not to, because of their scale of thinking, because of their personal development. Would they be more developed? They would think differently, they would feel differently, and in turn act differently. So this is number one, the big scale thinking. Also, you're not so dependent upon being right, upon wanting to come across a certain way and kind of, re-manifesting your self-image over and over and over again. You see, a good leader is somebody who is also able to say, I'm not right, and here are the things that that are not good at, that I can't do, and hire somebody who can. And the business person who believes and needs to be right all the time in every kind of way because of those massive, vast insecurities that he holds within himself, this is the person who actually crumbles because it's far out of life. So whatever you do in life, learning about how life works is truly beneficial. And when I talk about personal development, this is really what I mean. It is not about adding something upon what you believe you are, but rather kind of stripping away, getting beyond the illusion without making it another project to kind of strip away as a kind of doing practice, but rather being quiet, being still, let the things fall away, as corny as that sounds, but this is what I understand by personal development. Working on yourself by not working on yourself, and letting the working that is already in the work through yourself. And what I mean by that is this. It was kind of very colorful expression, I know that. Life happens by itself, the healing process happens by itself. When you cut your finger, you can put some aloe vera on that aids, but the healing happens no matter what, it happens anyway. And so does our healing process, our personal development process, our process of growth happen by itself. We don't need to force, we don't need to do. We can kind of provide a great, how shall I say it, like the aloe vera cream, you see, that you put on, a good environment for the natural healing process to happen, but it happens by itself all the time, in and of itself, without you needing to do something. And so we need to get rid of the fear of that when we stop, everything will stop. This is not it. Look at life. Everything grows by itself. It doesn't need to be forced, It needs to be initiated. And of course, sort of a nurtured environment like the aloe vera cream is valuable, but we don't need anything for our growth. So the person who realizes that actually has the ability to stop. And then we invite the things that actually want to come through us, that actually want to come and want to happen naturally. Because the problem is, when we start out on a personal development path and try to grow in a way that we believe we should grow, the trouble with that is maybe we grow, but maybe in a way that life is not, that we're not meant to be. There's a great saying that even the fastest sprinter will be last if he's running in the wrong direction. You see what I mean? No matter how fast you run, if you run like the wrong direction, following your head, not the heart, you're not going to go anywhere. At least not where life needs you to go. So you might as well surrender and just go with the flow of life, huh? I believe in truth, love, fun, beauty and excellence. I believe in life itself. Because life is us. We are life. It's not that we are all of life. This is kind of an egotistical kind of point of view that we say, I am all. But it's rather all that there is also me. I am an expression of the whole. It's not coming from an ego place and saying that this little ego that I believe that I am encompasses all, but it's rather all that I see out there is also me. I am an expression of the whole of the one, and this is what gives me faith and courage in life, because everything that life does, everything that happens in life, I should say, also happens within me. As in the grand scheme of things, it also happens like on the small scale of things. So when life happens by itself, of itself, without force, so my life will happen of itself, in and of itself, without force. When life grows without trying to, without pushing to, maybe I can learn and start to grow without trying to, or without pushing to. When life invites and accepts everything that comes, maybe I shall learn to do the same, to accept everything that comes in the interior world and in the external world. When life is flow and life is movement, maybe I should move more, and maybe I should be more fluid. When life needs structure and fluidity, maybe I shall build a structure that is my personality, in which I act with the world, interact with the world, but also remain fluid and open. And when in life you really never know what comes next, maybe I should learn to, less plan for the future and more being opened. When it's really true that the tree that is stiff breaks and the tree that is flexible survives and gets just stronger by the challenges of the wind, maybe I shall learn to be flexible instead of stiff and stuck in my head. Maybe life can be learned by just observing nature. This is what I truly believe. Life can be learned by observing nature, because nature is what we are. Nature is all around. Nature is what we see in the plants and the trees and the birds and everything else. Even in the rocks. When it is really true that everything in life is just waving energy, waves of energy, energy in movement, maybe I am so. I am too. So am I. When that's really true, that everything in life is already whole and is already perfect, maybe so am I. When there are some things in life, some animals, that are not concerned about the way they come across and what other people think about them, because they are not people thinking about them and they are not dependent upon those people, maybe I should learn to do the same. I believe we can learn from life by observing life.